Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawah, Bahashem, Rekah, Kudash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles, Great Millstone, for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is Shabai from the GMS Denver. And I'm going to read 1 Samuel 3, starting at the top this morning. It says, and really this is it's dealing with a prophetic call to Samuel, okay? Samuel the prophet. So let me go ahead and start at the top. It says, And the child Samuel ministered unto Yahawah before Eli. And the word of Yahawah was precious in those days. There was no open vision. Alright, so that word precious, it goes into rare. Alright, and if something is rare, it has high value, okay? Like precious stones, right? Precious metals, those type of things, they have higher value because they're rare. And the same thing with the Lord's word, the same thing with the truth, because this truth that we hold is precious. I mean, look how many people are on the internet right now breaking things down, but they're breaking it down incorrectly. Or they have no understanding on what they're teaching, what they're so-called teaching, you see. So we have, this understanding of this word, and it's very precious, and it's going to be valuable in the days we're coming into, okay? Verse 2, And it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, and he could not see. And ere the lamp of the Most High went out in the temple of Yahawah, where the ark of the Most High was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep. And Yahawah called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. And he ran unto Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou hast called me. And he said, I called not. Lie down again, and he went and lay down. So Yahawah was actually calling him, right? And Samuel thought it was Eli. It says, And Yahawah called yet again, Samuel. And Samuel arose and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And he answered, I called not, my son. Lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord Yahawah, neither was the word of Yahawah yet revealed unto him. So, we come into this ministry, and the Lord calls us like he did Samuel here, but we don't know everything. Everything's not revealed to you like the day you were called. So, that's why we become diligent. The Lord puts this spirit of diligence on his true servants. The Lord puts the spirit of his spirit into us, But in the beginning, we don't know everything. See, the phone chimed on that. We have to learn by diligent study, reading, looking up our words. It takes work and time, experience, But, it's all, our steps are guided by Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahushai, and, like it tells you in Jeremiah 1:5, he ordained us prophets and teachers, and he knew us before we came out our mother's womb. All right? Because Samuel was young here, and what we're reading here, this chapter, he was young. He was a young prophet. He was a boy. Okay. It says, and Yahawah called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that Yahawah had called the child. So now Eli realized that he was being called by Yahawah. Okay. And there's a thing called the rule of three. And basically, let me just read it to you. It says, hence the rule of three, a principle that suggests that things arranged in threes are more satisfying, effective, and memorable other than numbers. Okay? So you have that rule of three. And Yahawah, remember, he called Samuel 3 times. And just like our Lord Yahawashi, he did the same thing. Let me see if I can grab that. I think it's Yahawashi. He did the same thing with Peter. There's a thing called the rule of three. Okay, like I just said and read. And basically, this rule of three, it goes into, like I said, more satisfying. Also, clarity, meaning making things clear. If you tell somebody something 3 times, you're making it clear on whatever you're trying to communicate to them. And also to make it more memorable, So, the rule of three, you tell somebody something 3 times, they're going to remember what you told them. Okay? Let's see if we can grab this in John 21:15. Let's see. Well, even I'll start right here. John 21:14. This is now the 3rd time that Yahawashi showed himself to his disciples after he was risen from the dead. Remember, rule of 3. It says, so when they had dined, Yahawashi said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. Okay? And what does feeding the lambs mean? It means edifying the flock, edifying the sheep, teaching the elect, right? Verse 16. He saith to him again the 2nd time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. See, so Yahawashi was using that rule of 3, right? Here's the 3rd time, 17. He saith unto him the 3rd time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the 3rd time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. Yahawashi saith unto him, Feed my sheep. Okay? So Peter was grieved, it said, right? Because he asked him 3 times. But guess what? You think Peter remembered what his duty was? You think Peter was clear on what Yahawashi was asking him? He put emphasis. That's another thing, another principle and part of that rule of 3, to put emphasis, clarity, and make something memorable using that rule of 3. So let's go back to Samuel. Yahawah called Samuel 3 times. So, the point being, as when this is rule of 3 is applied or in effect, it becomes memorable. It brings clarity and emphasis. Okay. So let's keep reading this chapter. It says, where am I at? Verse. Oh, Slovakia. It's a little early. Okay, I'll read verse 8 again. Verse 8, it says, "And Yahawah called Samuel again the 3rd time, and he rose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli perceived that Yahawah had called the child. Therefore Eli said unto Samuel, Go, lie down, and it shall be, if he call thee, that thou shalt say, Speak, Yahawah. For thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And Yahawah came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. See? So he did what Eli told him to do, because they realized it was Yahawah who was calling him. And remember, when we all had our calling at a different time, we all came in a different season, the different time that Yahawah ordained for us to be a part of this ministry. And that's what it is. The Most High called us, and if we're the elect, then we've been called before the foundations of the earth, and in every single one of our lifetimes as being the servants and the prophets of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. He's tapped in, or we've tapped into the spirit of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai in all our lifetimes. Okay, that's why when I must bring it out, Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Okay. And even, I read it, verse 6 here, even Jeremiah was called as a child, right? So even us, when we were young men, when we were children, think about your experience, or think about your life as a child. I tell the story, I've told the story in different videos and lessons throughout the years, how one of the things that stuck with me that my mother had said, because she made a statement, she said, I never had seen any child or any of my other children, holding their Bibles, taking their Bibles everywhere. And it's not that I forgot, but I didn't really think about it. And she had made that statement, well, I remember you used to always have your Bible on you even when you were a child. She said that, I don't need to get too deep in the story. But anyway, the point being is, as men in this ministry, we had that excellent spirit towards Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai, even as young children. And I'm sure if you're a servant and you're sincere, you can relate to what I'm saying. It says, Then said I, Yahawah, the Most High, behold, I cannot speak, for I am a child. But Yahawah said unto me, Say not, I am a child, for thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee, and whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Right? And that's what it is. When the Lord calls us, that's it, man. You have that spirit of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. We don't speak with our words. We speak of the words of the Lord, Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. And that's the same with all the prophets. And that's the same with Samuel, what we're reading. He's, as we read the chapter 3, 1 Samuel 3, it goes on that, well, we're going to read it, but the point being is, we speak the words of the Lord, whether it offends these people or not. Okay? We don't have fear of offending these people when it comes to this ministry. They call it the bitter truth, or the truth is a hard pill to swallow. And it is for the majority of these people. The truth is a hard pill to swallow. They don't want to deal with it. That's how hard it is. Okay? So it says 8, Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith Yahawah. Then Yahawah put forth his hand and touched my mouth, and Yahawah said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. See? So, hey, this is nothing to be taken lightly. The Lord has, if he's called us, and guess what? The way he touched his mouth, he says, he's putting his words, I've put my words in thy mouth. And that's what he's done to all his prophets. He's touched our mouths and put his words in all our mouths. And guess what? We are the mouth of Yahawah. We are the ones who who ordains and he puts on this earth to deliver his message, to deliver his prophecies. The Most High Yahawah is not going to come down from the throne and speak to these 2/3 and these heathen, aside from his prophets. He's gonna teach, he's gonna put the spirit on his men to do this work, to prophesy, whether they hear or whether they forbear, right? Like it tells you in Ezekiel. So, let's grab this. Luke 1:70, As he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began. And that's because, it says that because we've been chosen to do this work long before this age, long before this lifetime, Ephesians 1:4, according as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. So he chose us to be his servants, the prophets, before the foundation of the world. That's crazy. Verse 5, having predestinated us unto the adoption of the children by Yahweh Shai HaMashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Right? So this is not our will, this is the Most High's will. The Most High to make us prophets, to make us holy souls, to make us friends of the Most High. Right? Let's go back to. And when he puts his spirit on his prophets to be who we are, we run with it. We don't hold back. Everything that he puts in our mouth, we say it. And it doesn't matter whether these people listen whether they hear us, whether they believe us. Our duty is to just deliver the message of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. Not regarding their emotions, not regarding their feelings. See, the phone chimed on that too. We don't need to worry about these people's feelings, because their emotions and their feelings are according to this wicked ass world. And if they can't receive this knowledge, it's because it's not for them. And the word condemns majority of these people. Okay? Especially Esau Edom, the so-called white man. So, and let me grab this real quick, because it's been on my head. Isaiah 58:1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, in the house of Jacob their sins. All right, cry aloud, spare not. That's the point. When we cry aloud, we're crying out the words. We're crying aloud the words of the Lord. He's put His words in our mouth, and we don't care about how these people feel, toward this truth. We're going to spare not what? Spare not their emotions. Spare not their feelings. Doesn't matter what they feel. The word of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai is going to come to pass, and the prophecies are going to come to pass whether they like it or not. Right? Tells you that. Another one I want to grab is, let's see, I think it's Ezekiel 3 maybe. Let's see. Okay, I'll grab this. It says in verse 11, I'll start at Ezekiel 3:11. It says, "And go get thee to them of the captivity." He's telling Ezekiel to go teach the Israelites who are in captivity. And just like right now, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, you're the Israelites, and this is our captivity here. This is our final captivity here in Babylon, America. And it says, "Unto the children of thy people, and speak unto them, and tell them, thus saith Yahawah the Most High, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear." Okay? So we got to tell them this whether they want to listen or not. Right? Ezekiel 3:17, I'll jump down to that. It says, "Son of man, I have made thee a watchman." Another word for watchman is a prophet. It says, "I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me." Okay? So we're actually doing these people a favor, but the Lord, the majority of them, they don't see it as that way. They're offended by our words, because they're offended at Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai's words at the end of the day. And we always say, they're not mad at us. They have a problem with the Most High and His Son. Because when they reject the knowledge, reject the truth, they're rejecting the word of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. They are rejecting us because the Lord put His words in our mouths. But you get the point. It's really an offense. They're offended by the Most High, Yahawah. Okay? So, let's go back to 1 Samuel 3. And 11. It says, "And Yahawah said to Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel, at which both the ears of every one that heareth it shall tingle. And that's how it is with us. We telling these people the prophecies and their ears are tingling. It's like, oh shit. They're to the point where they're like, we don't want to hear it. You know? We don't want to hear the truth. Because the truth, is not what they, we're telling you that America is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles. The majority of these peons, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the truth. We're telling you that America's going to collapse. There's going to be famine and pestilence and tribulation. And our people, they want this place to continue. They don't want this place to end, even though it's wicked as hell. And the thing is we're in this ministry as being called by Yahawah B'Shem Yoshaya as prophets and teachers of the word. We are only concerned with the word and the truth of Yahawah B'Shem Yoshaya. We're not concerned with these people. Okay, we don't care what they think of us, or we don't care what they think of the message. And really, we're already we're always a step ahead of them, because whether they hear or forbear, if they hear, hey, they may be of the elect. If they forbear it, if they reject it, then guess what? That tells us who you are too. Two-third or just a heathen. Really, we don't really do this. Well, we don't teach this word for the heathen or the two-thirds. We teach this word for the elect's sake. But in the process, the heathen and two-thirds are going to hear it. Okay, so let's go to Romans 2:11. It says, "For there is no respect of persons with the Most High." All right? So we don't need to be sitting here respecting you two-thirds and you heathen who can't receive this truth. We don't need to sit here and pray for you, respect you, do you any favors, because our respect and our loyalty lies with the Most High. And if you can't get with it, then guess what? That's why people are astonished when we're teaching on the street corners, and they're like, oh, well, how are you guys treating me so bad, and they're over there rejecting the words, because you don't reject. This ain't for you. Move on up the street, kick rocks. We don't need to respect the people who are not believers, that we don't need to respect people who don't believe in this knowledge and this truth. Scoffers, mockers, gainsayers, people who come against the ministry. Why would we respect that? See? Oh man. 1 Samuel 3 verse 12, it says, "In that day I will perform against Eli all the things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I will also make an end." And basically, Yahawah was pissed off at Eli and his sons, because his sons were being wicked, doing wicked things in the temple, such as having sex with the women in the temple, defiling the temple, things of that nature. The Most High was he had enough. That's why he basically set up Samuel to prophesy against Eli and his sons and his household. 1 Samuel 3:13, "For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not." See? And that's how these American parents are. You see it all the time. You see these kids being wilding out, being monsters, being vile, unrighteous children. And their parents, they don't rebuke them. And part of it is because, America is set up for these kids to rule over their parents. But these people, even if they do try to rule over their kids, they don't do it in the order of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahushai. That's why you have you have these fathers and these fathers of daughters here in Babylon, America. They'll be at the fucking grocery store with their daughter, allowing their daughter to wear a shirt with no bra, nipples popping through and shit. You see that stupid shit all the time, and that's just one example, that comes to mind. But these people, they don't know how to apply the laws of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahushai, because they don't even know the laws of Yahawah. They don't know the ways of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahushai. So, verse 14. But the thing is, the point is these people here in Babylon, America, they don't know how to control their children. They don't know how to teach. They're not raising their children up right. These kids are just like Eli said, vile and wicked. And it's just it's like running rampant, because the majority, or except for the elect who have the spirit of Yahawah B'Hashem Yahushai, these people are out of control. And the children rule over them. Let me grab that real quick. Women and children rule over them, and that's out of order. The men are supposed to be the rulers. There's order in the, Yahawah B'Hashem Yahushai's divine order is the Most High Yahawah, then Yahweh Shai, then the men, then the women. And this place has women ruling over men, but that's also prophecy. You're supposed to, as a woman, you're supposed to obey your husband, but it's like the opposite in Babylon, right? It's in Isaiah 3:12. It says, "As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths." Right? And who's leading our people? It's these fucking Edomites are ruling. The wicked is ruling. So that's why you see the state of our people so fucked up, You see how these kids are ruling over their parents. You see how these women are ruling over their husbands. The order it's all out of order. That's why this place is going to be destroyed. Because all that chaos and that out of orderness, it just breeds wickedness and breeds what you see, on the streets, on the TV, on the internet, everything. So let's keep reading this. Let me see where I'm at time. Okay, that's good. It says, let me see. In verse 14, "And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. And Samuel lay until the morning, and opened the doors of the house of Yahawah. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision." Because remember, he was a child, and he had to basically rebuke his, kind of like his mentor. It says, "Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, Here am I. And he said, What is the thing that Yahawah said unto thee? And Eli knew in the spirit that Samuel was a prophet, even though he was a child. And he said, What is the thing that Yahawah had said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. And that word pray means beg. It also means beg. So he's like, I'm begging you, hide it, don't hide it from me. The Most High do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he said unto thee. And Samuel, so he's basically saying, please tell me. And Samuel was saying it right. He was like, yo, just tell me, even if it's bad, tell me. What did the Lord say? And you knew in his spirit, he knew it was bad. Because, you know, when people are going off, you know. Verse 18, and Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is Yahawah, let him do what seemeth him good. So, again, a characteristic of the true prophets, we're not going to hide nothing to sugarcoat anything. We're not going to, tell lies so that we can get along with you. We're not going to beguile you, trick you, We're going to tell you and we're going to warn you just the way Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai has made it. We're going to tell you the truth. Whether you hear or forbear, whether you like it or not, whether you're with it or not, we don't care. We're going to tell you as the Lord has put it in our mouth to say his words and his truth. Okay, verse 19. And Samuel grew, and Yahawah was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. And that's us. We're not gonna take words out just so you don't get offended. We're not gonna tell you lies and America is not gonna be destroyed. No, that's a lie. The Bible says the Most High is going to destroy Babylon, America. And he's going to destroy all the wicked in this place. And guess what? We grow as the servants, the prophets, by telling you the truth. If we sit there and lie, the Most High is going to expose that thing. If you're lying, you're telling people lies, you're not teaching the Bible according to how it's written. You're a false prophet. You're letting words fall to the ground, meaning you're not using all the words that the Lord put in your mouth. The true servants, the true prophets are not going to do that. And all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of Yahawah, right? And that's because in the time of Samuel, the people were, they weren't they weren't degenerates like they are now. Okay? Yeah, they were wicked and stuff, but they still believed, they still understood that the Lord had prophets on the earth. Like these people, they don't believe the Lord has prophets anymore. They don't even believe Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai are real. They think it's a fairy tale because that's how they've been taught here in Babylon, America. Like this thing is just a big old fairy tale. And that's not true. And it's not faithful. But like it tells you in the scriptures that then shall they know a prophet was among them. And that's going to happen. They're going to realize that we are the men of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai. When all the chaos and all the tribulation really hits them to the point where, they start having a fear. But it's going to be too late because they chose not to listen to the words of the Lord's prophets. While it was a grace period. Because there's going to come a time where the Most High is going to unleash all hell, all wrath, all destruction on these people. And that's going to be too late. You're going to sit there and be burning in the fire, the nuclear fire, saying, I wish I would have listened to the Lord's servants. I wish I would have, repented when they were telling me to. I wish I would have tapped into the spirit of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai as an Israelite, right? Because the heathen, they have no part in this. The people that are outside of the Israelites, the so-called Black, Latino, and Native Americans, you're not salvation is not for you. You people are set up to be burned in nuclear fire and destroyed and put into subjection under the Israelites in the kingdom. Okay? And that's how the Lord has wrote it out. That's the scripture. That's the truth. Verse 21. And Yahawah appeared again in Shiloh, for Yahawah revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh by the word of Yahawah. Okay? And it just shows you that Samuel was a true servant, a true prophet, because that's what happens to the true prophets. The Lord reveals himself unto us. Right? I'll grab that and I'll end on that. Isaiah 53:1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yahawah revealed? And the answer is the elect, starting out with his prophets. The elect are revealed, and the prophets are revealed. Yahawah Bahashim Yahushai. The rest of the world, they reject it. The heathen, they don't matter. They're just extras in the movie, set for destruction. So with that, I want to give all praise, all glory, all honor unto Yahawah Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Rakah Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all Akyam who are pushing this truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.